Fantastic. So I'm Susan Glickman. I'm the Florida Director of Southern Alliance for Clean Energy, and I've been working in the climate and energy space for the last 18 years, and I'm just very happy to be sharing a little bit of information. Samantha, that was an amazing presentation that you just did, and I love all the amazing work that all my friends at Broward County are doing. So I wanted to just give a little bit of kind of an overview and then talk specifically about an initiative that we're helping to develop. But I do think it's important for people to sort of understand where we've been and why we've been in this place, particularly in Florida. And we're just seeing this amazing revolution in renewables. I mean, overall in the U.S., solar output increased 47% in just the last year alone. Solar prices have dropped 86% since 2009. It's just really amazing. Samantha gave you some good numbers about what's happening with FPL and in Broward, and I want to put some perspective on that because right now in Florida, we only have 0.36%, right? So about a third of 1% of our needs are being met with solar. And while I applaud the advances and the projects that FPL is doing, even with their big announcements of 2 gigawatts of solar by 2020, that's only going to be 1.6%. And I think the backdrop for all this, and again, Broward County has really been the leader in the region and in the state, is that we're looking at 2 feet of sea level rise by 2060. And there's an old adage that goes, when you find yourself in a hole, what do? You stop digging. So there's an incredible imperative for, our state. I'm a native Floridian myself, and the downside of climate change, sea level rise, rising heat. We now have 25 days a year where the heat and humidity index is 105 degrees or greater, and by 2030 we're going to have 100 days a year. So what does that mean to our economy? I know a lot of people in the room are either with local government or in sort of the business side of things. So that's sort of the downside. That's the bad news. But the good news is that we have this incredible opportunity, and in particular with the cost of solar dropping so exponentially. And then I would add to that the advances in battery storage and the price drop there. Just about the last year, battery prices have dropped 24%. So we're seeing all this incredible opportunity, juxtaposed against what we've been doing, where we've been buying about $56 billion a year, bringing fuel into Florida, imported coal, oil, gas, nuclear. So imagine what that does to our communities when we keep those energy dollars here at home. So the opportunity is absolutely amazing. So I'm proud to be with all these groups of presenters. So many of them are my friends, and I'm going to refer to some things you'll be hearing about in more detail later. And after I speak, you're going to hear from Angela, and she's going to talk about solar co-ops. And in part due to the tax reductions that happened in 2016, or it came out of a ballot initiative, and the work of the solar co-op, we've seen 110% increase in residential solar panels. So that's permits to put up solar in residences. So we're seeing this already. So one of the things, because we are so concerned about climate change, we want to get as much emissions reduction as possible. And one of the ways we do that is by doing more commercial projects. So the residential efforts are kind of kicking along, and there's obviously a very significant effort to move that along. So we are working to develop a commercial solar collaborative. It will work differently than the residential solar co-ops, but there is a similar idea about educating people broadly. So I would say, in workshops like this go a long way in doing it, that people do not necessarily realize the economic opportunity with solar. From a business point of view, job creation, solar jobs are 10 times the national average. We have about 8,000 solar jobs in Florida. So this is a great opportunity, a job growth engine, a money savings engine. And then according to Jim Fenton, who's at the Florida Solar Energy Center, which is part of the University of Central Florida, he estimates a return of investment somewhere between 12 and 14%. So I, work in public interest advocacy. I'm not a financial advisor or planner, but if anyone knows where we can get a 12 to 14% return on their investment, if they would shoot me a note, I would be most appreciative of that. So think about that investment that you can make in your house that makes you more resilient, that also saves money. And the time is right now, because we still have a 30% federal investment tax credit. And so, when you put all the numbers together and the savings there on your taxes is what gets you that tremendous sort of rate of return. So we're looking for some of the businesses, and as Samantha laid out, what it takes to get to 100% and the potential for some of these small and medium and larger businesses. That's who we're looking to work with. And the Florida Solar Energy Center is looking to help businesses sort of analyze what their opportunity is. One of the unique things about getting solar, and I've gotten solar through the solar co-op on my roof very recently, 10.5 kilowatts, is every single roof is different. So particularly, with businesses and larger scale projects, people, at least as we evolve this whole solar market, are going to need some help in just analyzing what their needs are and figuring out the granular detail of your rate of return, your payback period. Every roof is going to be a little bit different. So the Florida Solar Energy Center is going to be involved in that and sort of doing a little bit of hand-holding with businesses so that we can figure out, what makes the most sense and how much solar, they're going to be able to produce on their roof. So that's essentially what we're doing, is an education project, kind of like the workshop that's happening right now, but to inform people about, the cost of solar coming down, the investment tax credits, the return on investment, and then, how do we get those systems? And we'll be working with vendors, solar installers, providers that are out there, and developers to, get the best prices for people. And also, and you're going to hear later from my good friend Doug Coward, who's going to talk about financing that they've been doing in the efficiency and solar space, and the potential also for helping with financing in the commercial side. So I'll just give you one example of a project over in the Tampa Bay area, which is where I live, the Great Bay Distributor. That is the biggest Anheuser-Busch distributor in the state of Florida. And it was about 2 years ago that they put up solar, and the cost has dropped even pretty substantially since then. But they put up 1.5 megawatts. It's $2.6 million, and it's roughly a 6-year payback. And that Anheuser-Busch distributor will save $6 million on their electric bill. So I don't want to, you're not here to sort of beat up on the utilities, but it's really understandable that a business model and investor-owned utilities like FPL cover 75% of the state. So they have enormous political clout, and they make money selling electricity. So just like McDonald's probably doesn't want to sell us hamburgers, they're not necessarily welcoming this move where people like the Great Bay Distributor are going to save $6 million, because that's $6 million in this case that Duke Energy's not going to get. So we've had some challenges with, politics and policy and the sort of real transition of what's happening, where we go from the centralized generation to a more distributed, system. And then you add to that the electrification of transportation. And I mean, we're seeing more and more and more companies announce, new lines of cars. A lot of these car companies are going to move completely away from gas-driven engines. The Southern Alliance for Clean Energy and the League of Women Voters are collaborating on another project called the Next Car Pledge. And we'll get information out to you all about that. But the idea is to pledge that your next car purchase will be an electric vehicle, and you will be driving your $32,000 Tesla or a Bolt, plugging into your solar panels at home, and probably running your refrigerator and your air conditioner off your car battery at night. 21st century, we are going to fundamentally change how we create and consume energy. And I am most appreciative of everyone participating today, because you're on the cutting edge of this revolution, and it's happening, and it's a must, and it has to happen. But we have an opportunity with solar to protect our natural environment. Every time you put up a solar panel, not only are you saving energy, but you're saving water. We get to keep energy dollars here in the state, and we get to create this unbelievable job growth. So I'm very easy to find. I'm Susan at cleanenergy.org. And so if you have an interest in exploring a larger scale, well, of all sizes, but small, medium, and large commercial projects, get a hold of me, Susan at cleanenergy.org. And I look forward to working with you guys. And I think some of the broad themes I've laid out here, you're going to hear, more from other speakers who are going to follow. But